Welcome back to All Things ETH. My name is Aaron, and on this channel we talk about all things Ethereum. We talk about projects, play to earn, NFTs, and price. And today I'm rounding up my Axie Infinity card breakdown. So we're going to get into Reptile cards, guys. So without further ado, let's jump right into my screen here. We've got Axie.tech. If you want to go here, you can go to Axie.tech and then go to Tools and then go to Card Explorer. And today we're on the class Reptile and we are starting on the back cards. We have some tiers that have been created by Indus, one of the pros in the Axie arena. And we have at the top here, we have Bone Sale. Bone Sale, I've seen this particular back card on so many different Axies, guys. I've seen them on plants, I've seen them on aquas, and it's a reptile card. You might not see it on a reptile, you might more often see it on something else, but we have 80 attack and 80 shield. Draw a card if this Axie's shield doesn't break, or this shield does break, sorry. So it's similar to Pumpkin on a plant, however, instead of if it doesn't break, it draws a card if it does break. So great card, especially at a 1v1 level to boost your card draws, just in case you need to get that special card for the finishing move in your last rounds. B tier here is Croc. We have or Nile Strike. Apply speed minus to target for 2 rounds. This is an 85 attack and a 60 shield. I think in general, guys, I want to say this. You're going to see more favoring of shield type cards in reptiles. They're probably the most similar to plants as far as speed and shield, and but they favor the debuffs. A lot of we've got poison in here. We're going to have some speed minus. We're going to have some backdoor type cards. Not a lot of where you see more energy type cards in the plants and like Carrot in particular, or Sirius, or Heals like Vegan Diet. In the plant cards, you're going to see more debuffs and shield cards in the reptile class. They're not quite as tanky, but they are a little faster than plants. So you do see a lot of frontline, or you do see a lot of backline, depending on the type of play that you're seeing with the reptile Axies. So one of the most common is a Terminator, which applies both reptile and bug cards. Obviously, you don't want to have a bug in particular, because bugs are a little less tanky. So if you get a couple bug cards like Snail Shell and or like a discard on a I'm sorry, one of the most common is the Terminator tail that you're going to see a lot of Terminators with reptile class with some bug cards like Snail Shell. But for the most part, guys, these are the next tankiest thing to be in the Axie Infinity world. So next one down here, C tier, is Green Thorns. Vine Dagger is the card name. Double shield from this card when comboed with a plant card. Not terribly useful. Nice 0 cost, I guess. But again, not terribly useful. Much more useful cards up here. Oh, I skipped over Bulwark. 20 attack, 80 shield. Huge shield card, guys. Reflects 40% of melee damage back at the attacker. That's an interesting thing in reptile cards. We have both Indian Star and you'll see later Scaly Spoon being a reflect debuff, which is pretty cool. And then, or rather, a buff in particular to the Axie that has it. And then Slippery Shield, add 15% of this Axie's shield to adjacent teammates, which is pretty interesting. Probably one of the biggest shield cards at 145 shield in the entire game, guys. And then adding 15% extra to adjacent is interesting. Spike Throw being a backdoor sort of card if it targets enemy with the lowest shield which typically isn't going to be the front Axie, obviously, with the Axie in front being the one that's getting attacked at the time, unless you have a backdoor. So that's an interesting one. Let's move on to the next. We'll go on to Horn. We'll get rid of backs. The S tier on this one, which is the highest tier, is Cerestes. It deal 130% damage if target is faster than this Axie, which is pretty typical actually, because like I said before, reptiles are slower. They're not as slow as plants, but they're a lot slower than most classes. So you want to get a slower Axie. You could even put Cerestes on a plant. That'd be pretty interesting. 90% or 90 damage, 60 shield would be great on a plant card or a plant class as well, dealing 130% damage. Very similar actually to Cactus in that regard. Not quite as much damage on the front end as I think Cactus is all the way up to 105 damage, but doesn't really have as much shield as Cerestes does. So Bumpy is recovers 20 shield per turn. It's a pretty interesting card, guys. I haven't played a lot with this one, but I have seen it used, and so confusing, to be honest with you. Go ahead and try it out if you're interested in this sort of thing. Scaly Lunge will go along with another lunge card, dealing 120% damage when chained with another lunge card. Pretty decent card though, 110 damage with 50 shield. Tiny Catapult has actually risen in the ranks, which is interesting. I have this on a couple birds actually, some backdoor, little tiny owl with post-fight birds, and haven't been really doing so well in the marketplace, but I might want to list them again because this Scaly Spoon, since so many gravel ants have been used in this current meta, people are starting to use the ranged cards more often, and this one reflects 50% of ranged cards back to the attacker. And with 80 attack, when you have a 50% reflect, I mean, often you're seeing at least an 80 attack from the attacker. Like if you're attacking possibly a I'm trying to think of a good one. Probably an Aqua in particular. Aquas definitely have a couple of ranged cards, like Oranda being one of them, or Shoalstar, and reflecting back 50 to 160 damage because of a 110 to 120 damage cards. That's pretty powerful, and I would like to see this be more often used. But one of the other things that I've talked about in the previous videos on these is when you have not a huge amount of damage and not a huge amount of shield, kind of these mid-grade, middle of the road cards, they're just not as often used. So Scaly Lunge is one of the exceptions in the reptile cards where you have a lot of damage and not as much shield. Again, just and with a 120% damage buff to it is pretty good for a reptile card, where reptiles tend to be a little bit more middle of the road all the way around. So Incisor is the next one. It's called Disarm. Apply speed minus to attacker for 2 rounds. I'm not really sure why Disarm is the actual name of this, considering it's a speed debuff, but 100 damage, 40 shield, not too terrible there. Unco or Poofling, apply stench to target until the end of the round. I have found that stench really doesn't help you much, especially on slower Axies. It only targets. Apply stench to target until when it's to the end of the round, you don't get to use it with your faster Axies unless you put it on a fast Axie. And 100 shield on a fast Axie doesn't really make a lot of sense, because you want to have your faster Axies with a lot more attack, because that's what they're good at. So Poofling, and I believe there's a bug card that has stench. I think it's just called Ant. Both of them are pretty useless in my estimation, honestly. But let's move on to mouth cards. Chomp is the most ubiquitous reptile card. You often see it on Terminators. Applying stun to the enemy comboed with at least 2 additional cards. So keep that in mind, guys. Chomp does not work without 2 additional cards, and so most reptiles will have a 0 cost because a lot of them last until the end of the round or the end of the game, and so the later rounds you want to have a lot of cards played to get Chomp to work, but you'll need that 0 cost in order, because you only get the 2 energy per round. And not seeing, besides Kotaro, there's not a lot of, I don't think there's any other energy gaining cards in reptile builds. So pretty great card though, for the stun in particular. And then Kotaro, probably the second most ubiquitous of all the reptile cards, gaining 1 energy if this target is faster than the opposing Axie. Again, Kotaro you actually see more often in faster Axies, so you don't see them a lot in reptiles. You see these on aquas, you see these on beast, you see these on birds, sometimes on bugs, but the top 3 are definitely bird, beast, and aquas with Kotaro. And then because they are faster than the opposing Axies, and then Razor Bite is pretty common, not quite as common as others, but pretty common. Will heal this Axie by damage inflicted. So that's pretty similar to like Vegan Diet in Plant Card, although it does have a pretty decent hit or attack. So a 95 attack with a heal is actually higher than most. I think it's the highest one that deals recuperates the damage that it inflicts. So then Toothless Bite is actually fairly common for being a C tier card. It's probably one of the more common backdoor cards, because most backdoor cards inflict a little bit of damage but don't have any shield at all. Like Little Owl, I think, does like 25 damage but doesn't have any shield, where this actually gives you 20 damage plus 40 shield, which is pretty great if you're looking for a little bit more tanky backdoor cards. So moving on now. Have we hit Horn? I think we've hit Horn already. Yes, we did. Let's move on to Tail. Get rid of Horn here. Last but not least, we have the Tail, and these are pretty awesome cards, guys. Grass Snake has been a pretty common in the last 2 metas, 19 and 18, as far as seasons go, and then Critical Escape being probably the newest one to the meta. Reduced damage taken by 15% this round, which is pretty amazing, with a 90 attack and a 20 shield. But Venom Spray is probably more common just because it's the poison attacks and on a 0 card is pretty awesome. And then we have Gila. I don't think I've ever seen this, honestly, in all of my play. Applied attack -2 a poison target, so you have to poison them first, which the poisonous reptile body part is a tail, and then you have to also use another tail card, which can't be possible. So you have to use a poison in maybe one Axie and then Gila in another. It just doesn't terribly make sense, guys. So this is pretty C tier. I would even call it a D tier, to be honest. Although it does have 100 damage and 55 shield, which is pretty OP. It's just not terribly usable as far as its debuff goes. Iguana, it's funny, this is like the one card that doesn't make sense because it's a blue card in a purple deck, but it does generate 1 energy when attacking a buffed target, which is interesting. Again, why does it have... It looks like an aqua card. Scale Dart has some aqua things to it, like the artwork is a little more aqua. It's blue. I'm not really sure why this is a reptile card to begin with, but it is what it is. And then we have Snake Jar. This is an interesting one. Attacks that breaks this Axie's shield cannot be additional damage, can only trigger once per round. So honestly, guys, I have yet to figure out how this card works. I've not seen it enough. I do think it's one of those well-kept secrets. I've seen a couple videos on YouTube about this. I still haven't wrapped my head around it, to be honest with you, so I'm sorry for that. But Reptile is definitely one of those classes that I have not spent a lot of time using. But though I use things like Kotaro fairly often, I just don't use a lot of other Reptile cards. Chomp I've used a ton in some of my Terminator builds, but I've built my Terminators in bugs, and I do have a couple of scholars that are using Reptiles, but the Reptiles have a couple bug cards in them to make them full-on Terminators. So anyway, moving on. Tiny Swing being the last card of this set. Deal 150% damage after round 4, which you know, if you had it in your back lane, that would be helpful. I'm not really sure. I don't think I've seen this a ton. Again, another Reptile card with this sort of fish motif. I've always been interested. This reminds me of a dolphin. It's weird. Tiny Swing feels like a tail slap or something from an aqua. Anyway, guys, I got nothing in this video. I don't feel like I've explained this well, and I'm sorry for not knowing a lot about reptiles, and I'm definitely kept this last because I am less familiar. But if you guys have any content that you would like to share in the description, more about reptiles, I would love to get to know them better. But I had to round out my series with all the different cards. Maybe in the future I'll update this one if reptiles become more meta, but right now plants, beasts, birds, aquas are just far more interesting, and bugs have grown significantly in Season 19, so I've focused more on them. And with that, guys, that's my last content for this week. Thank you so much for watching, especially the fam over in the Discord. We have so many people now. We have we're just about to hit 400 people in the Axie Infinity All Things ETH Discord channel. Link is below for that, guys. Join the community if you're in the Axie Infinity world, and I would love to hear from you. And last but not least, head over to friedrichscoffee.com if you'd like to support this channel. Pick up some 12-ounce bags of freshly roasted to order, in fact, coffee that will be shipped to your door if you live in the continental United States for free if you use code FREESHIPUSA at checkout. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more content about Axie Infinity and all things Ethereum. Guys, thank you so much for watching.